back, everybody. It is the working brother back at you with another talk. This time, yet again, George is with us. George McMillan III, welcome back. How are you doing?
I am doing great, as always. It's great to be here. It's great to be in Thailand.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I got to go Bangkok tomorrow, and I got to get visas for Laos and Cambodia. I got to get
Nice.
my motorbike across. It's not a problem for me, but anyway, we're gonna get back into the slide deck here. We stopped off at 80 yesterday, and again, the focus on this show is how to do an interdisciplinary geostrategic show that's uses my integrated political, economic, and geopolitical frameworks that I use in my unified behavioral theory stuff, but I'm applying it to Mackinder-Spikeman grand strategies. And I changed the name of my own YouTube channel today to GWM3 Grand Strategies, so people can get that. I got my unified behavioral theory channel, which I haven't been able to do anything with lately because everything's been Ukraine this year.
Yeah.
But because I do not just the grand strategies, but I do them in the Pamisi dime, political, military, economic, social, infrastructural, informational. Dime is diplomatic, infrastructural, military, economic. Because it's these economic and political combinations that make a country strong or weak, and demographic.
Yeah.
So my frameworks know exactly how they're integrated because the social sciences abandoned the scientific method in Tubin and Kuzmides talk about how the 1960s liberals got in power in the Western university systems and destroyed it. We'll leave that conversation for another day. So I'm using that integrated set of frameworks that's behind this. So this is not a talk show. This is an interdisciplinary grand strategies class. So that's what we're getting into.
Being presented on a comedy show that is trying to be hilarious about the clown world geostrategic paradigm that we find ourselves in today's world, basically.
Right. And if anyone's been watching Tucker Carlson lately, they'll know why this is just a comedy act, because otherwise, they're apparently they arrest people now for no reason. So we got to do the comedy act.
Yeah.
Yeah, because all these academic books that I read are purely conspiracy theory and comedy.
Time traveling Russian propaganda. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So anyway, getting on slide 80 is where we left off. The idea was the United States has used, since the Cold War, we went into George Kennan's his strategy of containment in 1947. It's using Spikeman theory from one of the first Yale Grand Strategies professors who taught with Donald Kagan, who was the father of Frederick Kagan, who was on with Jordan Peterson last year, making sure that we knew that the war was illegal, unjustified, and Putin is just crazy. He invaded Ukraine for no reason. That was Frederick Kagan, who was on with Jordan Peterson, not once but twice. And then Robert Kagan is Victoria Nuland's husband. He's at Brookings Institute. So all these people are out of the Yale and or Harvard Grand Strategy classes. And University of Chicago is another big one. I mean, they teach them at the other Ivy League schools too, but principally those. So so since here on slide set 80, you're talking about having U.S. NATO is putting pressure in Western Europe to separate Russia and China, and then to contain the communist threat after the communist, the Mao Zedong revolution in 1949 in China. The United States started CETO, the Southeast Asia Alliance, And then since then, it's been, they've always had the Five Eyes, which is, 5 English-speaking countries: U.S., Canada, Britain, Australia, and New Zealand. So they've always had a special relationship. And the point of this is for the Anglosphere to control all the oceans and use each other's naval bases.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, at first it was to encircle Russia, and then is to contain both Russia and China and split them apart.
Mm-hmm.
But now this encirclement of Russia is leading to the point where it's actually pushing Russia, has been leading to the point where it's pushing Russia and China together. China knows it's, we went over it before, China knows that it's really susceptible for U.S. naval interdiction going through Straits of Malacca and Straits of Hormuz, where they get most of their oil from. So they've been trying to build pipelines and railroads into Central Asia to get as much oil and natural gas over land to reduce the amount that comes by sea. And the difference between the Silk Road project is the first initiative to getting all their vital supplies over land, not by sea. The Belt and Road project is to get what they need from the Middle East and or Africa to any port in Asia and offload it,
mm-hmm.
to reduce the amount of time that their ships, time and distance, their ships are in the Indian Ocean or the South China Sea, subject to U.S. naval interdiction. So they want to be able to get them to the mainland of Asia as quickly as possible, offload oil supplies, and send it on pipelines, whether it be Chakpao in Myanmar, or Gwadar Port, or Chabahar Port in Pakistan and Iran, respectively. So that's the difference between the original Silk Road strategy and the Belt Road strategy. It's all about mitigating U.S. naval interdiction one way or the other. So by pushing Russia and China closer together, by surrounding them with all these, NATO, CETO, ASEAN, Five Eyes, Russia and China are trying to divorce from the United States. So that's what's creating the bipolar world. And like I've been talking about in the 6 power center theories, it's really about ultimately breaking the petrodollar for Russia. We went over that in the Russia strat plan, because their strat plan is going to be a counter strategy. Yeltsin and Putin really wanted to become part of the EU. And the United States blocked that, because then all the cheap oil and natural gas, mainly the cheap natural gas, because coming from pipeline, shipping natural gas through pipeline is 1/7 the cost of LNG. And if German industry can get reduced energy supplies, then their super high quality products become super high quality and cost competitive at the same time. The United States is trying to block that up. That's what Mike Whitney's Un's article about the war is really about separating Germany and Russia. It's not about Ukraine. So that's why he wrote that. He wrote that February 14th, 12 days before the invasion or something like that. So let's move to 82. Yeah, okay. So what we're doing in the back half of section 3 here is start talking about alternative COAs, because COAs are courses of action. In military decision-making projects, you get the mission, you get your objective. And I've never been in the military, but I do planning, or have done planning. You get your objective of what you're trying to do, so you start from where you are and you figure out what you need, and then you figure out different ways of doing it. So if one thing fails, you can go to another, you go to another option. So you have co-analysis, co-assessment, co-development, and then co-selection. You put that into the operation. You're going to be monitoring something. It could be a lot of things, but you start monitoring things with different measurement system and control methods, because either your people aren't implementing the plan right, and they need to be retrained and redirected, or the plan sucks, you need to get rid of it, you need to go to something else. So that's what your different that's what different COA assessments means. So in this case, what the United States did was move NATO and the EU east. Now, a lot of people at the time during the 90s, I was in graduate school, you only really need to move the EU east. You can move it without the economic, you can move the economic liberalization farther east without the military component. So why was the United States so insistent that you move the military component? And then again, that's the six power center strategy I've been talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Yeah, let's move to 83.
Yep.
Yeah, so again, going from the original 5-power strategy to the 6-power strategy, had the EU just moved east, well, that would be a Haushofer plan. The integration of Russian resources with German industry. Germany is the dominant player in the EU. So just moving the EU east and not NATO east would have that would have made Germany up in Europe. It's the whole German world when I say Germany, because again I'm talking about Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Austria together. They would have been up, the Russians would have been in, and then the Americans would have been marginalized. So in order to keep the global center of power in Washington and in London, you have to move NATO east ahead of the EU. Okay, so yeah, we already talked about Germany's the dominant industrial power in the EU. So yeah, if they go, Germany's up, Russia's in, the United States is out. So that would have changed the global political center of gravity to, Brussels, Berlin, and Moscow. London and Washington don't want that. Okay, I also have the city of London because the financial centers are most important here. Again, I talked about Allen Dulles and John Foster Dulles in between World War I and World War II. They worked for Sullivan and Cromwell in New York as working for it's a law firm for multinational corporations working overseas. During World War II, Allen Dulles worked in Bern. They had gone through London. So Allen Dulles had worked at all the major financial centers of the world at one point or another. When, FDR dies, Truman becomes president, then Eisenhower becomes president. Eisenhower puts Allen Dulles in charge of the CIA and his older brother, John Foster Dulles, as the Secretary of State. So the two brothers control overt diplomacy and covert action at the same time. And they've been working at the world's financial centers. So that's the fusion between big finance, big business, and the intelligence community, and the intelligence community working with inside the State Department also. That's the history of that. So you're not just talking about the political capitals, you're talking about Wall Street and the city of London. And for those people that don't know, I was trying to find the Felix Rex's video that he did several years ago. I couldn't readily find it, but he did an excellent video on the city of London square mile. It's basically a separate country inside the UK. Their banking rules.
There's many good videos, and it goes back to like 1080 something, or if I'm not mistaken, or 1040 something. But yeah, the city of London is a entity unto itself. It doesn't belong even to the United Kingdom. let alone anything else. Yeah. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
For the financially literate will know what you're talking about.
Oh yeah, well you have degrees in economics and finance.
Yeah, but I'm saying other people who know some things about, like, you know, the money system that we live under will probably know what you're talking about as far as London is concerned, or the city of London.
Yeah, well, we're gearing this show anyway to people with MBAs and MPAs.
Mm-hmm. Or just people who are willing to learn.
Or willing to learn, but yeah. So yeah, we're trying to add the geopolitical aspect and do the interdisciplinary approach here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So
so
here it's big stress of the big financial centers.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
Did it catch up?
Yeah. No, your video cuts out, but your audio keeps coming through. So it's okay.
Oh, okay.
No, it's okay now. Like it just a second or two, like disappears and then it comes back. Just power through it, man. Just power through it, and I'll keep silent.
All right. So 84. Let's go to 85. So here again, okay. I threw in the 6 power center theory map again, because this is the Russo-centric 6 power center map where Russia's power center number 1. They've been building all these pipelines since the 1980s into, well, it originally was into Eastern Europe and then into Eastern Germany. And then Austria was neutral during the Cold War period. So the cheap natural gas went to Austria. Well, then it goes to Liechtenstein and Switzerland also.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to the neutral countries. And the United States started to get worried about that. Then once you had the reunification of Germany in 1989, they're really concerned about all the German world getting cheap natural gas, and all of a sudden the price of a Mercedes or a BMW is the same price as a Chevrolet, and who's going to buy a GM product if you can buy a BMW or a Mercedes or a Volkswagen for the same price? No, like nobody.
Yeah.
So that's what the United States is worried about. But in this case, it's a 6 power center theory. So, yeah, if what I've talked about in the other videos is India is so completely angry at the United States for not only arming the Mujahideen Sunni Wahhabi violent extremist organizations and warlords, or terrorist groups, since 1980, but we came back and really messed up Afghanistan and ended up arming the same violent extremist organizations again.
Yep.
Which are now working on destabilizing that region. So people argue whether it's on purpose or not. And then Power Center 4 is China. China's got the big, huge infrastructure projects connected to Russia. And Russia has lots of oil and natural gas in the Far East, in the Vladivostok area, especially here. What we're concerned with is in the Sakhalin area, Sakhalin to Hokkaido port that I keep on talking about, because I don't want people to get focused on Ukraine war. And there's something going on the complete opposite side of Asia that the U.S. sanctions are also designed to stop. They're designed to stop the Sakhalin to Hokkaido tunnel. Because if Russia ends up selling its Far East oil and natural gas to Japan, then guess what? Lexus and Infinitis and Toyotas and Nissans and all of that, their prices drop. And then that puts way more pressure on U.S. automobile manufacturers. That would drastically, and then if Japan switches, well, then is South Korea next? Okay, it's a little bit trickier because North Korea is in the way, but you have the ability to use pipeline infrastructure and making North Northeast Asia drastically reducing their energy bills and moving them out of the Western camp into the Russia camp. So these sanctions are meant to stop projects all around Eurasia. So here I do that, the Clausewitzian terms, because Clausewitz is saying that someone's diplomatic power is only as big as the military behind them, carrots and sticks. And your military is only as big as your industrial economy can produce war goods. Let me back up here a second. For hominids have been on the planet for 150,000 years. They say Cro-Magnon man was almost about to be eliminated by Neanderthal man until they invented the bow and arrow. Then it flip-flopped and Neanderthal man almost went extinct. Actually, there's a merger now because they do DNA testing. So then in that case, the nomadic tribes always had a distinct advantage over the farming and city tribes because these, the Mongolian and Turkmen cavalry would just come out of nowhere. The Plains Indians had the same kind of, in the United States, had the same kind of setup. Well, they are same kind of people, but they can come out of nowhere and just completely take over a town and they rape, rob, kill everybody and sack the place and move on to the next place.
Like Fallujah.
So they'll move to something else. Well, Mongolians did sack Baghdad in 1253 or something like that?
No, I'm talking about Fallujah, like recently. Anyway, that was like a, anti-imperialist joke. I had to. I'm sorry.
Oh. So anyway, that lasted for tens of thousands of years. Mm-hmm. That the nomadic tribes always had the advantage over cities and farming lands until gunpowder was brought from China and met up with Western metallurgists. And it happened up north because what do men do during the winter? Because up north, you have to work twice as hard during the summer to save up enough food to last the winter. Yeah. Well, men tinker in their garages is what men do. I mean, other than drink beer. So, so men started building swords, edged weapons, everything goes tactical to practical, then started making gun barrels, and then firearms in Europe became so much better than everybody else's. It's at that point the Industrial Revolution happened because the metallurgy used to do that was the same metallurgy that you needed to start building steam pumps. And once you had a steam pump, an external combustion engine, it wasn't too long after that you had internal combustion engines. So all of that started to happen relatively rapidly. Once you had an industrial economy, then it was really, really easy for the industrial powers to send their cavalry armed with rifles and just go kill the nomads. Mm-hmm. So that's the first time in history during the Industrial Revolution that a gunpowder army had advantage over edged weapon armies.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I forget the professor. It was on Professor talked about that on the History Channel back in the late 90s. I hate to rip off anybody's ideas. I do like to, but I can't remember the guy's name.
When the History Channel was actually about history, huh?
I haven't watched it in years.
Exactly.
But anyway, yeah, that's where I got the idea from. So anyway, Clausewitz was talking about Bismarck rather, blood and steel. Mm-hmm. As far as what's the rise of Germany going to be in as becoming a land power, and it's in their industry having the ability to support the Prussian army, and then you're going to use diplomatic pressure first. So that's why your economic strength builds your military strength, and that builds your diplomatic power. So that's why dime is invented Bismarck and Clausewitz, theories from a couple hundred years ago. Okay, and here I got, just so everybody knows, because I just put it here. So yeah, PAMIC's military, economic, social, infrastructural, and informational. DIME, it means the same thing. It's just got more acronyms to it. Diplomatic, infrastructural, military, and economic. SWOT, that's your game theoretic analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, and threats. If player, you can have cooperative games in game theory and antagonistic games. So you cooperate with allies and you compete with competitors. So then in that, you have absolute and comparative advantages. Player A makes a move. What is player B likely to do? So that's how you start doing your risk calculation for any kind of planning. But here we're talking about military and industrial. All right. So NATO is in a big problem after the Berlin Wall came down and Germany reunified.
Yeah.
It's actually something that's really under discussed because, we were also, I was 20 something back then, but I didn't have any gray and white hair back then. But yeah, we were also, great, the Berlin Wall's fallen, and now they got the Soviet Union's falling, communism collapsed all over Eastern Europe. Everything is going to be great. In 92, 93, we're on this great new world. And for the geostrategic planners, it actually became like a nightmare because then they're worried about, well, now there's nothing to stop all that cheap Russian natural gas from entering the European pipeline system. And once you connect one pipe to the network, it's connected to the whole thing. So it actually created a bigger problem for the United States. A lot of people were talking about how we're going to have world peace, this, that, and the other thing. But for the Wolfowitz crowd, it represented a major problem with some major upsides in their point of view, because they were talking, the Wesley Clark videos that we played at the beginning starts talking about, he wasn't thinking about any of this. He says he's out training at the National Training Center in the Mojave Desert, and he goes to Washington and meets people, and they're talking about they got to invade Iraq. The Soviet Union Russia won't be able to respond after the Soviet Union collapsed. So they got 10 years or whatever, number he threw out to start changing the dictators in the Middle East and start trying to get, democracies. Of course, what they mean by democracies, it means a puppet government, really. Or, that's the way it works out. Whether on purpose or by accident, that's the way it's worked out. So that was when Wesley Clark realized, wait, none of these comparative strategies are being debated. And no politicians are talking about them. It's people in these backroom grand strategies classes out of the Ivy League schools, again, from the Allen Dulles era of the OSS and CIA. It was really a tight-knit group of Ivy League people that got into the intel community, and then over the decades, nothing changed. So it's still kind of like a small group of people that runs the U.S. government. So Wesley Clark's videos he just kind of found that out. And of course, I wouldn't know it either unless he, made those speeches back in 2007. So I bring them up again. Because now it's more readily apparent because even though he discussed it, he discussed it, so he didn't get money from the military industrial complex, big business, and big finance because he wasn't supposed to talk about that. So his election campaign funding dropped, and Barack Obama ended up winning. It was going to be between Hillary and Barack Obama back then. So yeah, so he brings it up. So important in this and what this slide set 86 is about is what mechanism NATO is going to do to move itself with the EU into Eastern Europe. So the second half of the Clinton administration moved it to Czech. It was one country back then, Czechoslovakia, Czech and Slovakia, and into Poland, and then later on in the Bush years to Poland and the Baltic states. They also wanted to make a beeline because you want to control Ukraine and Georgia, so you can control the perimeter so you can move up to the border of Russia. You want to control the pipelines and the ports if you want to choke the Russian economy. They've only got 3 ports: St. Petersburg, Rostov-on-Don, and the Crimea area, and Vladivostok on the other side. Every single one of those ports. So blocking in the ports is real easy. The Brits have been doing it for a couple hundred years now. Our Navy has learned from theirs. It's the same. And then the pipelines, they're fixed pipelines. They're static. So they don't move. So those are easy to control. So the United States deliberately moved them over. And the way that they did this was they had NATO and the NATO association committees and Office of Security Cooperation Europe to do foreign military sales. So you call it NATO OSCE FMS sales. Mm-hmm. is what you call that, but that's what the acronyms stand for. So the way to do that is you put the pressure on the EU to put the NATO equipment standards clauses in the EU agreements. So that's how they started moving NATO East along with the EU. But again, if just the EU moves, then Germany's up, Russia's in, and the USA is out. So they got to keep NATO moving with the EU. So Germany's down, Russia's out, and the United States is in. Otherwise, the political center of gravity shifts. All right. So yeah, let's move to 87. Okay, 87. Okay, we're going to shift towards the petrodollar now. Andy Schechtman was talking about, okay, everybody that knows me, I've been talking about for 10 years now or whatever. Mm-hmm. Then I predicted high inflation at 30 trillion. We were supposed to hit 30 trillion in debt about 2027, 2028. Well, we already hit 31 trillion last year, or 6 months ago or whenever. Then I expected rampant inflation at 35 trillion. We weren't supposed to hit that till the mid 2030s. Well, Biden had a $6 trillion spending plan that he proposed. Well, whoever his budgeters, he doesn't propose anything, but whoever runs the government proposed it. So yeah, that would put us at 37 trillion. So we're right into my hyperinflation or rampant inflation numbers, where you start to pay so much in interest rates vis-a-vis your tax receipts and your percentages of gross domestic product, that you're going to have to start cutting social services or cutting the military, and then you just don't have the wherewithal to fight a war. So here, what Andy Schechtman is talking about is those unfunded mandates in those social services. If you add those things up, because you got to pay the Social Security, for the pensions for the elderly here in the United States. You also have to pay the government employees, military retirements, and Medicare and Medicaid and WICA and all these other different pension and welfare programs. So he says that the United States is actually $130 trillion in debt when you count the unfunded liabilities. Mm-hmm. So I just use the 30 and 35 trillion, knowing, because I wasn't sure how much the unfunded mandates are going to be.
Who?
All right. Oh, okay. Also, what else I got in the slide set? So now we're going to have the booming deficits that we can't pay. But I also have in the slide set that the United States was, okay, the more the United States moves east to block in the pipelines and the ports in Poland, Ukraine, and Georgia, what's Russia's game theoretic move? Well, the United States, starts putting billions of dollars in influence in these elections in the East. That's why Manafort and Podesta and all those people are over in Ukraine and Poland and everything else. It's, you're moving K Street in Washington to the capitals abroad, but you're bringing the influential graduate school department people who are then bringing the think tanks and the NGOs that come from these elite universities into other capitals of the world, and you're starting to, bring democracy to Eastern Europe. But it just happens to be where all the oil and pipeline hubs are. So Bulgaria, by moving into Bulgaria and moving into Romania, the big deal there is you're controlling the areas where pipelines going underneath the Black Sea would enter a port in Europe. You're also, like in my Nord Stream analysis, you're also controlling the Danube River, and there's 10 countries on the Danube River, all the Balkan countries and the Slavic countries. So you're trying to cut off Russia from its favorable and historical ties to the other Slavic Orthodox countries. So Bulgaria and Romania become big targets for earliest eastward expansion of the EU association agreements with NATO OSCE riders in it. So move to 89. Oh, okay. Yeah. Tucker Carlson talks about this all the time. He's funny. Yeah, as they're moving into areas, I got the pipeline map. I don't know. Does that show up on the on your screen? It's a small map. I couldn't fit a big one.
We can zoom in. Yeah, we can zoom in for people.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah. So, this is a map of pipelines going in the Crimea. I spent the last 13 years in that region.
Wait, this is the Black Sea one. You want the Crimea one?
No, you're good. You're good.
Oh, okay.
I just want people a general idea that the Caspian Sea has always been loaded with oil and natural gas since, I don't know, the 1920s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
British Petroleum was over there because they discovered oil, Saudi Arabia and Iran and Iraq way back when. And the Rockefellers, I think Nelson Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, Nelson Rockefeller was the governor. I actually met him when I was a little kid. But anyway, John D. Rockefeller had actually taken a trip to Baku, during the 1920s or whatever. I had somebody gave me a really long lecture about that years ago over beers, and I kept on buying him more beer because I wanted him to go on and on. And I wanted to keep this guy talking because the guy had worked is an American guy from Louisiana that had been working in the oil fields in that region and the oil platforms out on the Caspian for, I want to say, like 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he just knew everything about the history. The guy was like a walking historian of that area. Really gave me a lot of information because you have the Caspian Sea region, which with a tremendous amount of oil and natural gas. And you also have the Persian Gulf region in the Middle East.
Yeah, further down.
That's known for nothing but oil and natural gas. So you got these two regions right next to each other. I mean, people don't realize it's the same region. So it's oil. It's easy to ship bulk oil in the super tankers cost effectively. It's not cost effective to ship gas by LNG because you got to freeze it down to shrink it, put it on a ship and keep it super cold. And then you have to turn it from a liquid back to a gas, and that raises the price 7 times. But if you can just build a pipeline and turn it on, you just maintain the pipeline pressures and it runs until the ground doesn't have any more gas in it. So it's once you build that pipeline, it pays itself off within a few years, and then it radically decreases your energy costs. So the problem is with natural gas laden countries is how do you get your natural gas to market? Well, if it's going through friendly countries, it's easy. But a lot of the Arab countries, they have these tribal antagonisms that, I mean, go back to biblical times. If you just start reading Genesis, it's the same thing. It never ends. So, because Qatar has got huge amount of natural gas, the problem is it can't ship it through Saudi Arabia. It has to do LNG, and it's expensive. And then they're competing against Iran and the Caspian Sea countries that can build direct pipelines someplace. Qatar can't. Saudi Arabia can. Iraq, well, the two Ba'athist countries, Bashar Assad and Saddam Hussein, built their pipelines going through Syria and then into Turkey. Turkey will be an energy, they're glad to be an energy hub because everything's got to flow through them to go to Europe. They're in a good geographical spot. So the emphasis here is the amount of pipelines that are in that area. And you have a country like Iran that would love to build a pipeline going through Armenia into Georgia. Now, Iran's on U.S. sanctions. They're not sanctioned by the rest of Europe. So the United States tries to influence that region to try to keep Iranian natural gas from going into Turkey and into Georgia. They do have some going through Turkey. Of course, Armenia is the big sticking point because the Turks would love to build a pipeline through Armenia. That's what the conflict is over. The United States uses Armenia to stop it. So they inflame ethnic tensions in that area. It's a complicated region. You also have the Kurds there. So a lot of the conflict there is to stop somebody else's pipelines. It's just blocking people. And that's why there's so much tension in that region. So here in this slide set, this slide rather, the United States had to push NATO into the Baltics, Poland, Ukraine, and Georgia, so they can get as many countries that they can control in that area to block as many pipelines as possible. Because when you do that, you're forcing people to pay transaction fees that then support, the puppet government that you put into power. Then you're forcing people to use the petrodollar and the Anglo banking system. So then they have to use Wall Street and the City of London, because in the Bretton Woods Agreement of 1944 in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, the pound and the dollar were pegged to gold. So from those early agreements, the United States, then we went off the gold standard because of the Vietnam War, Great Society's inflation during the early 70s, and the Yom Kippur War with the Arab oil embargo. The agreement was to raise the price. The United States would provide military equipment and protection for Saudi Arabia if they used the dollar, and then they double the price of oil and natural gas. and King Abdulaziz signed the agreement, and we've been on the petrodollar. As our budget deficits increase, it's these big, huge oil producing countries that are buying the U.S. treasuries that are supporting our debt. So because of that, we now have our debt has gone. Well, back then it was just $1 trillion. Well, now we're at 31 trillion. So the more that we're able to use this to finance our debt, the more our debt grows. So now countries are starting to feel like they're the ones that are paying our interest rates, because every time we raise and lower interest rates, it affects the other countries that are borrowed against borrowed against money from Western banking systems. So now the United States has such a high debt that it cannot let anybody leave the petrodollar. So they're basically in a complete panic if the countries in Eastern Europe start leaving start exiting the petrodollar, because if Germany leaves and a whole bunch of other countries leave, 10 countries leave, all of a sudden our economy basically collapses. So this is all about controlling the oil and gas pipelines in this particular region, and this is why that region is so important. So let's go to the next slide.
Follow the money?
Yeah, follow the money. Or 90.
Yep.
So it's status control via taxation and tribute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the goal here is to exact tribute from Russia as they send their gas to Europe. We're making them they're making them pay us in order to make them buy our oil and natural gas.
We'll call those technical difficulties.
Yeah. So let's see, we're on 91, follow the money, the narrative and the reality.
Yeah.
Well, the official narrative, is that Ambassador Pyatt and Victoria Nuland's participation in the 2014 peaceful protest, which was to support human rights and democracy. The actual goal was to ease the EU as a means of expanding NATO via the NACC, OSCE, FMS expansion sales programs. So the video on the right is a video of Speakman theory. So I chose that because it's got a really good picture of what the rimland is. So the rimland is the coastal area, and the heartland it's in white there. It's in it's Russia. So the goal has always been to encircle. Well, it was the Soviet Union and then Russia, and it still is. Nothing's changed. Yeah, he wrote that book in 1943, The Geography of Peace. He updated it in 1950. Brzezinski says, "Oh, this stuff's outdated." Well, no, it's not. The geography stays the same. The technology is different. And the technology is everything I've been talking about. It's pipelines, ports, railroad infrastructure.
Yep.
Okay, and so, the telegraph is replaced by fiber optic cable and the modern internet now, and satellite communications, but so much of this has not changed. It's so much of this stuff still has to go over land or the sea, and you can block those areas. So again, they're using the NATO standards clauses, like Stephen Cohen was talking about with Aaron Matei in that video, as an excuse to move, as a way to move NATO east without actually moving NATO east.
Yeah.
We're on 92. We have, Mackinder's original theory in 1898 in the early, before World War I, is whoever controls the Heartland, it means Russia, controls the world island. And whoever controls, in his theory, it really boils down to controlling Eastern Europe. So you're talking about, the history of the region is the Germans and Scandinavians have always dominated the rivers, the Baltic Sea and the rivers, especially during the Hanseatic League. When it started to become an industrial power, it remained true. So you're really talking about controlling East Prussia and Poland, is what Mackinder was talking about. Now, Speakman was he's Dutch. He was a merchant marine, so he spent his 20s and 30s on ships, sailing through Suez Canal, Red Sea, Indian Ocean, and going through Straits of Malacca to the Dutch East Indies, Malaysia, Indonesia, Borneo.
We've covered him several times, yeah.
Yeah, so then he goes back and got his PhD at Yale and started this. He died at 50 years old. So his second book came out at 50. But he emphasizes, whoever controls the coastal area controls the world. So the United States has really tried to control that. But now that Russia and China are being kind of or have a strategy to link to each other, China is both on the coastal. Well, they're building a navy, so they're becoming a sea power in that area. But they also control a lot of land inland. So it's almost like a coastal area and an inland area. And again, we covered it that they're building tons of overland pipelines. Let's go to 93. Oh, okay. Yeah, so we kind of covered this already. Poland, Ukraine, Georgia, McMillan's emphasis on pipelines and petrodollars. Okay, so the purpose of taking over Ukraine, we talked about that before too. By taking over Ukraine, the purpose of the Euromaidan revolution is really to take over the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol. That's a map of the number of Russian bases in Crimea. Yeah, you're strangling their only warm water port at Rostov-on-Don. That's in the Azov Sea. Well, it's right next to why did NATO arm the right sector and the Azov battalion? Because you can put tanks in Mariupol right next to Rostov-on-Don, and they're wondering why the Russians object and get nervous and eventually invade to stop it. Yeah, so you're exacting transfer fees, and you're compelling everybody to buy Russian oil and gas in petrodollars. Okay, that's an expansion of the map with the bases on 94. All right, let's go to 95. Alexander Dugin's the one that's been talking about
philosopher who shall not be named. Philosopher who should not be named.
So, here he's a
author. He's also
geostrategic analyst. Yeah, he does. In his book, The Foundations of Geopolitics, he does one of the best renditions of all the major thinkers in geostrategic theory with the two Germans, Ratzel and Haushofer. Now he wants to integrate with Western Europe and disintegrate China into different ethnic areas. Just like I posted that video up in some of the previous sections about the different ways that you could break up the Russian Federation in different republics and oblasts. So different countries are thinking about how to destabilize other countries. That's part of the game theoretic aspect of geostrategic reasoning. But yeah, he did a really good discussion on this grand strategies topic that a lot of people would want to know. But yeah, as far as separating China, disintegrating it, that would, people are trying to say, the Western media tries to say that, oh, Dugin is Putin's brain or something like that. These Western journalists are complete morons. If China breaks apart, then the United States could envelop that area and really, well, they could totally cut Russia off from all of its oil and natural gas customers. So really now, Russian strategic plans and China's strategic plans, they're in lockstep.
Yeah.
One needs the other. They can't, this idea that you can break China apart from Russia. No, China spent, trillions of dollars on building up that overland infrastructure, all dependent upon the fact that the Russian Federation stays together and the Central Asian stay in the Committee of Security Cooperation Organization with Russia, the CSTO. All right, let's go to the next one, because we're going to cap this at about 100, I think. This is about 43 slides, I think, to close out this section.
Yeah, and we've been going for about 56 minutes, so like, I'm guessing people's attention span, even those who want to stay for the whole thing, is running thin very soon. So let's see if we can do it in another 20 minutes or so and cover these last remaining slides. Whitney.
Yeah, we're going to do it next. We're going to do it sooner than that. So again, I threw in Michael Whitney's article because it's so on point. I just keep on throwing it in there, just so people know that I'm not the only one saying this. Yeah. The whole plan was to break apart Russia from Germany, but he focuses on Russia and Germany. I go ahead and I keep on going around Eurasia. Well, I don't know how many people have watched all of our videos or some of the videos or whatever. So some of this stuff I have to double and triple tap on because there's new listeners.
Yeah.
So yeah, he focuses on Germany and Russia. I run through the other ports in India and China and Hokkaido and Japan just to remind the audience that don't focus on the one area. It's all of them. The U.S. sanctions are designed to stop all these infrastructural projects.
Yeah.
Because the neocons' dream would be to break apart both Russia and China. Then you can get, oil
subscribe,
and gas
like, share, more comedy, even with George. Yeah. and the attack on Crimea that's planned, like that, the breakup of Russia and China. I mean, like, come on, you can't get better comedy than that.
Yeah. Well, we already went over the RAND documents last month. Where, the video that I did with Constantine had bad audio. I'd scrapped that video, but
yeah, we covered the RAND documents in detail over here as well.
We just read it. We just read it in line. Just read it out loud because people don't even know that they exist. You can download them, but people aren't aware that they exist. And just to show that, it's not a conspiracy. It's in writing.
You mean it's not a theory?
Yeah.
I think.
It's so the idea here is, it's the whole area. Well, let's just go on to the next one.
To do it, preventing Ratzel. I'm not going to try and pronounce that second name. Haushofer. And,
wait, I
philosopher shall not be named.
I think the
I think my
spell check came in. I spelled that name wrong. But anyway, let me get through this because we only got a couple of slides left. I need to make my closing arguments here. So, all right. Yeah. What I wanted to break down in this slide was when I started talking about the petrodollar, it's not just forcing the money into Wall Street. The way that there's also a whole bunch of legal controls that the United States uses the petrodollar for. So in this case, they talk about the Foreign Account and Tax Compliance Act, FATCA, that the Obama administration made foreign banks report anybody with American citizenship or permanent residence have to report to the United States their income for taxation purposes. Now, here I got Andrew Henderson on there from Nomad Capitalist because he does tons of videos on, well, he renounced his citizenship, so he wouldn't have to pay taxes in the United States. Plus, he said that when Obama got elected, or when he got reelected, the United States done. And so he does some good videos on the Foreign Account Tax Compliance Act, FATCA. See, now the United States has foreign banks all over the world reporting its clients to the U.S. IRS. A lot of banks refuse to do bankings with Americans, but it got the Swiss banks to fall in line. So they're no longer neutral. They're actually reporting their clients, or they're not accepting American accounts. So you're using the SWIFT foreign currency exchange and FATCA and things like that to put a whole bunch of legal compliances to get reporting information from banks all over the world. So if people leave the petrodollar, start trading in non-dollars, the United States uses a lot of leverage in the different world courts, and from enforcing different property rights agreements and things of that nature. Okay, yeah, I posted the Wesley Clark video because we did that. We started that at the beginning, but I like the people to throw that in there because he's talking about the small number that actually run the government, and he was a 4-star general, and he's amazed at the very few people that are actually running the United States at this point. Well, everybody knows there's all these kind of memes, talking about whoever's in charge of the United States government, because it's not Biden.
We don't know who's in charge.
Oh,
we'll see.
So the point here in this, where I included this slide set and why it's so important to get this information out. It is so obvious from listening to even, forget about the Democrat senators, but even the Republican senators and congressmen. It's so obvious the American intel community doesn't tell them anything. Mm-hmm. These people are just, I think they're absolutely totally clueless. I listened to, somebody wanted me to go, oh, never mind. I don't want to mention any names, but
better not.
The Republicans in name only really have no idea what's going on outside the United States and how well they're being deceived. Mm-hmm. So the senators and congressmen are supposed to have these intelligence oversight committees, but it's really obvious that they're totally being, snowed in these committees. They just aren't told anything accurate about U.S. foreign policy at all, of actually what goes on. So this is, it's not only important that this gets out to, the population at large, because Wesley Clark was saying, I've been saying democracy is about informed consent. Essentially, Wesley Clark was always saying the same thing. Unless we have this debate in public, we really don't have a democracy.
I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, I know. There's no gambling. What gambling? So the actual American foreign policy is not even debated. Oh God. Yeah, I just back in the United States to visit my parents over the winter. And my father has General Jack Keane on Fox News every night from the Institute of the Study of War. Kimberly Kagan runs it. Bill Kristol runs it. The tie there is they come out of the Kagan family started the Grand Strategies courses at Yale, and Kimberly Kagan is on the board at Institute of Study of War, which pays both General Jack Keane and Petraeus. So that's the takeaway there. So whenever Jack Keane goes on, yeah, Putin's crazy. He invaded for no reason. They kill people indiscriminately. They're a bunch of mad psychopaths. Yeah.
The Institute for the Study of War, a political organization. What more needs to be said? Like, I'll keep it light on the jokes, considering you're trying to be academic.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to close this thing out too, but these connections between Bill Kristol's PNAC Project for New American Century basically became the Institute for the Study of War, because that's where he's at now, and that's who Wesley Clark was talking about in his videos.
Everybody who's on Telegram will be familiar with the Institute of Study of War, ISW, maps that they put out often. Find me on Telegram, everyone, while George thinks of what to say about the next slide.
Yeah. So, yeah, we're closing this out. You're throwing in the sales pitch there. We're going to end it. We're going to end it here. And I want to pick this thing up tomorrow, and I want to close out the next 23 slides all on one straight run, because you have a shift. You know, the United States was always a Protestant conservative country that was. Christianity has the only belief system in a separation of church and state. Atheists cannot have that because they don't have a church. If you don't have a church, you can't have separation of church and state. So the state becomes all powerful. A lot of people don't realize that. It's really simple.
Hadn't occurred to me, but it makes absolute sense now that you say it out loud.
Well, yeah. So you're having this big, huge shift in the United States because, okay, my constitutional law professors way back when were incrementalist socialists. So I already know the game plan of how they want to start slowly chipping away at the U.S. Constitution. Now, I don't want to get bogged down in that, but we're going to you have an ideological shift. So the United States has been moving on the freedom versus authoritarian scale. The founding fathers of the United States, you know, they didn't want it in the middle. They wanted it all the way over as close towards freedom and anarchy as possible.
Yeah.
So obviously Hegel and Marx are more on the authoritarian Hobbesian Leviathan scale. So the United States, when you become more statist, you move it from one side of the scale to the other. Because when someone says someone's far right, usually they're talking about xenophobic versus cosmopolitan scale. But there's actually two scales as far as right-left. You know, one scale is the freedom versus authoritarian scale. See, National Socialism might be xenophobic because it's nationalist, so it's far right on that continuum. But then on the authoritarian freedom scale, they're all the way over to the far left, because socialism, it is a statist form of government. So a lot of people, we have this ideological shift where you no longer have a Protestant United States. You don't even have a Protestant and Catholic United States. You're having much more of a secular and atheistic. So with that, the neocons have then thrown in with the neoliberals and the far left. So now the United States is basically, because Bill Kristol and all those people voted for Biden.
I'm sorry, but I have to interject that I can feel you tiptoeing around the wrong words and trying to pick the right ones. Keep going. You're doing a good job so far.
Yeah, well, it's not getting kicked off of YouTube that I have to worry.
I know. But you're doing a very good job of tiptoeing around the correct words. Let's put it that way. Keep going.
Oh yeah. Well, we got complete idiots in some of the comment sections that just don't know why I have to be careful.
We love you. And yeah, we love everybody who comments. And if they've watched this far, they should comment. If the haters have watched this far, they should comment. Because we're an hour and 10 minutes in. Keep going, George. Sorry to disturb you, but I had to draw attention to the fact that you're choosing your words carefully.
We have, you saw what happened to George Papadopoulos, Roger Stone, General Michael Flynn, and then, boy, they've gone after and confiscated. Well, and James O'Keefe of Project Veritas, and they've confiscated the cell phones of so many of Donald Trump's attorneys. I mean, these things are just it's unprecedented. So it's not getting thrown off YouTube.
Yeah.
Nowadays you say the wrong thing and they come and they confiscate everything you got. Mm-hmm. That's just the world we live in now. So you just got to be careful. We have these shifts occurring in the United States that we need to get into because they have to defeat Christianity inside the United States. And then, after the fall of the Soviet Union, it was an atheistic international state. It became more nationalistic. The Arab countries started becoming much more, Arabic. The Central Asian countries went back to Islam. The Saudis and people from the Arabian Peninsula started putting billions of dollars into rebuilding mosques all across Central Asia. But Putin has been trying to reestablish the Orthodox Church in Russia. Gloria Tranholm had talked about that several years ago in one of her videos. I wish I could find it. I think it's still on Rumble or BitChute. I'll dig it up for the next one. So the far left wants to wipe out Christianity in the United States, North America, and also prevent it from occurring in Russia. So they need to defeat Putin for a whole bunch of reasons. It's not just oil and natural gas. It's also ideological, religious. So let's end it there because I want to pick that up tomorrow, because then you start to see how the global elites, WEF or whatever you want to call it, Bilderbergers, are playing, they're trying to play a balancing act that needs to be articulated. And people need to walk through this thing very carefully because they can't collapse the dollar to create a Cloward and Piven, but still have mostly Trump supporters and Bush supporters in the military, because then they would have affected left-wing coup instead of a right-wing coup a right-wing coup instead of the left-wing coup that they're trying to actually create. Yeah. So let's end it here. And then that's where we're going to go tomorrow with this.
All right. Thank you, George. Everyone who stuck around so far, thank you for being here. Like, share, subscribe with people who you think might be interested. I'm going to play some music and take us out. Thank you again, George.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good one.